Welcome to the online Rica Test preparation course presented by ricatest.com. Thank you so much for joining. In this lesson, you will learn the simple framework for writing a passing response on your Subtest 2 long essay that covers Domain 5 comprehension. Before we read the essay prompt, make sure that you take a look at the task in order to understand what you're being asked to write about. So here we have the examining task, which says, using your knowledge of reading comprehension, write a response in which you, number one, identify one reading comprehension need demonstrated by the student. Number two, describe an instructional strategy or activity to help address this need. And number three, explain why this strategy or activity you described would be effective for this purpose. I'm just going to take a quick moment here to pause the video and remind you that this same prompt can be found in your Subtest 2 Rica workbook that came along with this course. So if you haven't already, try and complete this essay prompt and then come back to check my written process of how I complete it. Now let's go ahead and read the essay prompt. A first grade teacher is assessing a student's reading comprehension of a story that he reads fluently and accurately by having the student retell the story. The story is printed below. All right. It says Claire is a 6-year-old girl. She is at home. She is thinking about a new toy pony. Her dad tells her, if you clean your room, you can get a new toy. Claire likes toys. She likes playing a lot. She wants a new purple pony. After the student reads the story, the teacher asks him to tell me the story in your own words. Printed below is the student's oral response. Looks like the boy said, Claire is a 6-year-old girl and she likes ponies. The teacher then asks the student, can you tell me more? Tell me everything that you remember about the story. And the boy says, Claire wants to play with a toy pony. I'm pretty sure she lives in a really big house. Her dad said that she can get a new toy pony later. The teacher completes the assessment by asking the student, what do you think will happen next? And the student responds, she'll probably keep thinking about playing with ponies. Okay, now I know that task one of this essay prompt is asking me to identify which reading comprehension need this student is demonstrating. That to me tells me that the answer is either literal, inferential, or evaluative. So let's evaluate further. Now, the student was able to recall that Claire is 6 years old, she likes ponies, and that her dad asked her to clean her room. This is all information that can be found within the text. And therefore, the student has demonstrated the ability to identify literal comprehension. That means literal is out of the picture. Now, the Competency 12 lesson, all about comprehension within this online course, taught us that evaluating comprehension is when the student can recall facts or react to a character's place in a story. Now, the student showed struggle in retelling parts of the story that couldn't be found within the story. This means I'll focus on inferential and evaluative comprehension for my essay response. Before we move forward, let's remember the 3 key performance characteristics that we are being graded on for our essays. Number 1, purpose. The examinee fulfills the prompt using relevant content and pedagogical knowledge. 2, application of content. The examinee accurately and effectively applies this relevant content and pedagogical knowledge. And 3, support. The examinee supports the written response with appropriate examples, evidence, and rationales based on the relevant content and pedagogical knowledge. All right, so here's my first part of my essay response. I said, the student demonstrated difficulty with inferential and evaluative comprehension, which led to him not showing the ability to identify the cause and effect side of the story. The information tells us that this student was able to frequently read the story, which tells us that he could decode the words. From this, we know that this student's lack of inferential and evaluative comprehension was not due to vocabulary or background knowledge. All right. Now, notice in the first sentence, the reading need is clearly stated. Then we use the next sentence to provide further information that shows to the Rica test scorer that we are knowledgeable about reading comprehension. Now, task one is complete. So let's focus on task number two, which says describe an effective instructional strategy to help address this student's need. Okay. Now, here's what I would write to complete task number two. It says, the teacher should begin by encouraging the student to reread the passage if the student still struggles to understand that. If Claire cleans her room, then she can get the new toy pony and predict that the next thing she will probably do is clean her room. I would use a think aloud to model self questioning, especially when I read something that I don't quite understand. In doing so, I would read a sentence and then retell that sentence in my own words. Then I might try to read two sentences and again retell that part in my own words too. In doing this, I would focus on inferential and evaluative types of questions that aren't found in the text, like, what would I do next? Or, how would I feel right now if I were the character? Then I would have the student practice self questioning as I listen and provide feedback as the teacher. As a follow up, I'd have him read along out loud and have him practice this self questioning technique. For task two, I described the activity, which notice how I used the gradual release of responsibility model, where the teacher models and the student tries with the support of the teacher, and then finally the student tries it independently. All right, so for task three, we'll explain why this strategy will be effective for this particular student. All right, and paragraph three says this strategy would be effective in improving the student's inferential and evaluative comprehension because it models and builds a technique that he can use to monitor his own comprehension understanding as he reads. Simple yet effective. And now task three is complete. I hope you found this helpful. This is how I would read, plan, organize, and write my long essay for Subtest 2 on the Rica test. All right, see you in the next lesson. Thank you very much.